The signal arrived at 0317 UTC. It appeared on military screens. Civilian satellites caught it. Deep space observatories recorded it. Nobody knew where it came from. Nobody knew how it crossed the void. But every receiver in the solar system heard the same thing. A voice, weak, broken, terrified. Please, if anyone can hear this, they're coming. Please help us. Then the transmission ended. For 12 seconds the world stood still. Then panic began. Scientists searched for the source. Governments demanded answers. News channels played the recording again and again. Millions listened. The voice did not sound human, yet the fear inside it felt painfully familiar. The signal had come from beyond known space, far beyond any human ship could travel. That should have been impossible. But the impossible part was only beginning. 4 hours later, another message arrived. This time the voice was different. A second speaker, a deeper voice, calm but exhausted. We know you can hear us now. We have detected your broadcasts. If humanity exists, do not answer. The transmission crackled. Explosions echoed in the background. Then the voice spoke again. They will follow the signal. Silence, then a final sentence. We are sorry. The connection died. Across Earth, people stared at their screens. Questions spread like wildfire. Who were they? What was chasing them? How did they know humanity? And why were they warning Earth not to answer? Deep beneath the Atlantic Ocean, inside a secure military command center, Admiral Daniel Hayes watched the recordings for the 10th time. He was 62 years old, gray hair, tired eyes, a man who had spent his life preparing for wars that never came. Now he faced something nobody had prepared for. The room was silent. Scientists sat beside military officers. Every face showed the same expression: unease. One researcher cleared her throat. We found something else, Admiral. Hayes looked up. What is it? She hesitated. The signal wasn't directed at Earth. The room became even quieter. Hayes frowned. Explain. It bounced off several relay points before reaching us. She touched her screen. A map appeared. Tiny markers spread across deep space. Someone intentionally redirected it toward humanity. Hayes stared at the display. Someone wanted us to hear it. Nobody spoke, because they all understood what that meant. Humanity had not found the signal. The signal had found humanity. 3 days later, the third message arrived. This time it carried images. The footage was damaged, distorted, covered in static. But enough remained to horrify everyone watching. Gigantic alien ships drifted through darkness, thousands of them, entire fleets. Behind them burned shattered planets. Cities disappeared beneath oceans of fire. Moon-sized stations broke apart like glass. The recording shook violently. Screams echoed through the speakers. Then the camera turned. A massive black object filled the screen. It was unlike any ship humanity had ever imagined. No lights, no markings, no visible weapons, just darkness, as if space itself had taken shape. The footage ended instantly. Nobody in the room breathed. One scientist whispered, "My God." Hayes remained silent, because he saw something nobody else noticed. Near the end of the video, just before the transmission died, a symbol flashed across the screen, a symbol identical to one found in the relay network map. Someone was still alive. Someone was sending warnings. Someone was fighting. And they wanted humanity involved. The United Nations called an emergency meeting. World leaders gathered. Arguments erupted immediately. Some demanded silence. Others wanted contact. Several governments proposed preparing planetary defenses. Many believed the messages were traps. Nobody agreed on anything. Until a fourth transmission arrived during the meeting itself. The room froze. The recording activated automatically. An alien female appeared. Her face carried cuts and burns. Smoke drifted behind her. She looked directly into the camera, directly at humanity. If this reaches Earth, then our calculations were correct. Her voice trembled. The enemy has nearly reached us. She swallowed hard. "We are the Alari Coalition." Images appeared beside her, dozens of species, different faces, different worlds, united under one banner. "We fought them for 112 years. Another image appeared. Dead planets, destroyed fleets, massive battlefields stretching across stars. "We lost." The room remained silent. The alien woman continued. "They erased civilizations completely. No surrender, no negotiations, no prisoners." Her eyes filled with tears. "If you receive this warning, hide." The image flickered. Then her expression changed. Confusion crossed her face. She looked away from the camera. Someone was speaking nearby. Suddenly alarms erupted. The woman turned back. Fear consumed her face. "They found us." The recording shook violently. Explosions thundered. The woman grabbed the camera. Then she said something that haunted humanity forever. "We thought strength would save us. We thought numbers would save us. We were wrong." The image distorted. Then she whispered, "Maybe humanity is different." The transmission ended. No one spoke for several minutes. Hayes finally stood. "Find where that signal came from." Scientists worked non-stop. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. Against all expectations. They succeeded. The source was located, an isolated region far beyond explored space. The distance was unimaginable. Human ships could never reach it. At least not with current technology. That should have ended the discussion. But then another discovery changed everything. The relay stations that carried the message still existed. Ancient structures hidden between stars, older than human civilization, older than any known species. Nobody knew who built them, but they formed a path, a bridge, a route across impossible distances. For the first time in history, humanity had a road into the galaxy. The question became simple. Should they use it? Public opinion split immediately. Half the planet wanted isolation, the other half demanded action. Meanwhile, something else happened, something nobody expected. The world's naval forces began receiving classified orders. Aircraft carriers, destroyers, submarines, support fleets. Commanders received messages marked with the highest security levels. Few understood why. Until the secret project was revealed, human engineers had spent decades studying experimental gravity systems. Most had dismissed the research as impossible. Now governments poured unlimited resources into it. Because the relay network changed everything, humanity suddenly had a destination. And a reason to go. Months passed. Shipyards worked day and night. Scientists pushed beyond every limit. The world watched nervously, waiting for news, waiting for another signal, waiting for proof that someone still survived beyond the darkness. Then the fifth transmission arrived, the shortest yet. Only 16 seconds long, the screen showed static. Broken audio hissed. Then a single voice emerged, weak, barely alive. "We held them back." A cough interrupted the speaker. The voice continued, "Not much longer." Static flooded the transmission. Then coordinates appeared. Thousands of coordinates, battle sites, refugee locations, destroyed worlds, and one final destination, the last known position of the Alari Coalition fleet. Then came the final sentence. The words that changed history. "If humanity still exists, please come quickly." The signal vanished forever. No further messages followed. Not after a day, not after a month, not after a year. Nothing. Silence consumed the stars. Many believed the Alari were gone. Many believed everyone was dead. But Admiral Hayes refused to accept that. 2 years after the first signal, he stood inside the largest military dockyard on Earth. Before him rested something the world had never seen. A fleet unlike any in human history. Warships built from humanity's greatest naval vessels. Transformed, armed, ready for deep space. Thousands of sailors stood at attention. Waiting, watching, listening. Hayes looked toward the stars. Then toward the fleet. Because humanity had finally made its choice, they would answer the call. But far beyond the relay network, hidden within endless darkness, a massive black vessel suddenly activated. Ancient sensors awakened. Cold machines analyzed new data. Then an alert spread across the giant ship. A single message appeared. Unknown. Civilization has entered the network for the first time in centuries. The hunters turned their attention toward Earth. The first ship entered the relay gate at 06 Graus UTC. A wall of blue light swallowed the vessel. For a moment it vanished completely. Every screen inside mission control went dark. No signals, no telemetry, nothing. Then the ship appeared again. Not near Earth, not near the moon, but 300 light-years away. The room erupted. Scientists cheered, engineers hugged each other. But Admiral Daniel Hayes did not celebrate, because the journey had only begun, and somewhere ahead waited the force that had destroyed entire civilizations. The fleet moved forward one relay at a time. Massive carriers, heavy cruisers, missile destroyers, support vessels, hospital ships. Each jump carried them deeper into unknown space. Each jump carried them farther from home. The crews quickly noticed something strange. The relay network was not abandoned. It was damaged. Entire stations floated in ruins. Ancient metal drifted through space. Several gates were shattered completely, as if something had deliberately destroyed them. Commander Sarah Mitchell studied one broken relay from the bridge of the carrier Independence. She stared at the scars across its surface. That wasn't an accident. Her operations officer nodded. Looks like weapon damage. Recent. The officer looked surprised. Recent. Sarah pointed toward glowing fractures. Those marks haven't cooled yet. Silence spread across the bridge. Something had passed through recently. Something powerful. And it was heading in the same direction as the human fleet. Far ahead. Hidden among dead stars, a small alien ship drifted quietly. Life support flickered weakly. Most systems had failed months ago. Only one crew member remained alive. Captain Vela of the Aolari Coalition. She sat alone inside the dark vessel, hungry, exhausted, waiting to die. Every few hours she checked her sensors. Every few hours she found nothing. No allies, no rescue, no hope. Then suddenly an alert appeared. Her eyes widened. The sensors detected movement inside the relay network. At first she thought it was the enemy. Her hands trembled. Then she examined the data. The ships were unknown. The energy signatures were unfamiliar. The vessel designs matched nothing in Coalition records. She stared at the screen for a long time. Then she whispered, "Humanity." Back inside the human fleet, morale remained high, at least during the first month. Then they reached the first battlefield, and everything changed. The stars themselves seemed wounded. Thousands of wrecks floated through space. Alien ships from dozens of species, broken fleets stretched across millions of kilometers. Weapons remained frozen where they had fired their last shots. Bodies drifted among the debris, silent reminders of a war humanity had never witnessed. Nobody spoke as the fleet moved through the graveyard. Even experienced sailors felt uneasy. One young officer stood beside a viewport, his voice barely audible. "How many died here?" Nobody answered, because nobody wanted to know. Then they found something worse. A planet. At least it had once been a planet. Now it was split in half. Its molten core glowed in open space. Entire continents hung shattered around it. The fleet transmitted images back to Earth. Billions watched. The reality finally became impossible to ignore. The warnings had been real, the enemy was real, and they were unimaginably dangerous. 3 days later, another mystery appeared. A distress signal, very weak, almost hidden beneath cosmic interference. The fleet immediately changed course. Hours later, they located the source, a tiny alien vessel, damaged beyond repair. The moment scanners identified life signs, debate erupted. Some officers warned of traps, others argued for rescue. Sarah made the decision herself. Bring them aboard. The rescue team entered cautiously, weapons ready. What they found surprised everyone. The ship contained only one survivor, a female alien, thin, weak, covered in injuries. When she opened her eyes and saw humans surrounding her, fear flooded her face. She tried to stand, then collapsed. A medic knelt beside her. "It's okay." The alien stared in confusion. The translator struggled to function. Finally, a few words emerged. "You came." The medic nodded. "We came." Tears appeared in the alien's eyes, not because of pain, but because somebody had finally answered. Hours later, Captain Vela sat inside the medical bay, wrapped in blankets, surrounded by curious humans. She could not stop staring at them. Everything about them felt wrong. Their ships were primitive compared to coalition technology. Their weapons looked outdated. Their computers seemed crude, and yet they had crossed the relay network. They had come willingly, knowing the danger. She looked at Sarah Mitchell. "Why?" Sarah frowned. "Why what? Why did you come?" The room became quiet. Sarah thought for a moment, then shrugged. "Because you asked for help." Vela stared at her, certain she had misunderstood. No species would risk extinction for strangers. Sarah smiled slightly. "Maybe that's why we're here." For the first time in years, Vela felt something she thought was gone forever. Hope. Days later, she briefed the fleet. Every commander attended. Every word she spoke carried the weight of history. She explained the enemy, the Void Fleet, a name whispered with fear across the galaxy. Nobody knew where they came from. Nobody knew what they wanted. Only one fact was certain. Every civilization they encountered eventually disappeared. "They don't conquer worlds," Vela said. "They erase them." A giant star map appeared. Thousands of lost systems filled the display. Entire regions of space had gone dark. Hayes studied the map carefully, then pointed toward a cluster near the center. "What's this?" Vela hesitated. Fear crossed her face. "That was our final defensive line." "What happened there?" Nobody in the room expected her answer. "We won." The room became silent. Hayes leaned forward. "You defeated them." "For one day." Vela lowered her eyes. "We destroyed thousands of enemy ships. Then something arrived. The display changed. A black silhouette appeared. The same vessel humanity had seen in the original transmission. Even now, the image felt wrong, almost alive. "What is it?" Vela swallowed hard. "We called it the King Vessel. Every battle it entered ended the same way. Defeat." No one spoke. Because even through a recording, the thing inspired fear. Then alarms suddenly erupted across the command center. Everyone turned toward the displays. A sensor officer jumped to his feet. "Contact!" The room froze. How many? The officer's face turned pale. 23 ships. Sarah immediately stood. Coalition survivors. The officer shook his head. "No, ma'am." His voice cracked. "Unknown signatures." Vela looked at the readings. All color drained from her face. "No." Hayes noticed her reaction. "What is it?" Vela pointed at the screen, her hand trembling. "They found us." Outside the fleet, 23 black vessels emerged from deep space. No lights, no markings, no communication signals. They simply appeared, watching, waiting. The distance between fleets continued shrinking. Inside every human warship, alarms echoed through corridors. Sailors rushed to stations, missile systems activated, fighters prepared for launch. The tension felt unbearable. Then something unexpected happened. One of the enemy ships transmitted a signal, not words, not images, coordinates, Earth's coordinates. Every person inside command understood immediately. The enemy knew where humanity lived. The room fell silent. Then another transmission arrived. A single sentence translated automatically across every screen. "New species identified." Several seconds passed. Then another message appeared. "Extinction schedule initiated." Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Then Admiral Hayes slowly stood, his expression hard as stone. Battle stations. Outside the viewport, the black ships accelerated. Their weapons began to glow. And for the first time in human history, humanity's war against the stars had begun. Red warning lights flashed across every deck. Sirens echoed through the fleet. Thousands of sailors rushed to combat stations. Nobody knew exactly what would happen next, but everyone understood one thing. There was no turning back. Outside the fleet, 23 black vessels continued advancing, silent, cold, unstoppable. Admiral Daniel Hayes stood inside the command center of the carrier Independence. His eyes remained fixed on the tactical display. The enemy formation looked strange, too calm, too organized, as if they already knew the battle's outcome. Commander Sarah Mitchell studied the incoming data. Range closing rapidly. Enemy weapons charging. Hayes nodded. Any communication attempts? The officer at communications shook his head. Nothing. Not even automated responses. Captain Vela watched the screens from across the room. Fear tightened her chest. She had seen this before. Many times. Every civilization always tried to communicate. Every civilization always failed. The Void Fleet never negotiated. They never threatened. They never demanded surrender. They simply erased whoever stood before them. Then they moved on. The distance dropped below 1 million kilometers. Every human ship locked weapons. Missile bays opened, railguns aligned, fighter squadrons launched into space. Hundreds of small craft spread around the fleet like protective wings. Sarah took a deep breath. Enemy firing. The first attack arrived. No missiles, no lasers, no visible projectiles. Space itself seemed to bend. A wave of darkness rolled toward the fleet. Several officers stared in confusion. Then the wave struck. 3 destroyers vanished instantly. Not exploded, not damaged. Gone, as if they had never existed. The bridge fell silent. Shock froze everyone. The tactical display updated. 3 friendly markers disappeared. No debris remained. No distress calls, nothing. 1 second they existed, the next second they did not. Vela closed her eyes. The nightmare had begun again. Hayes broke the silence. Return fire! Human warships unleashed everything. Thousands of missiles erupted into space. Railguns thundered. Particle cannons flashed. Entire clouds of weapons rushed toward the enemy formation. For a moment, nothing happened. Then explosions filled the darkness. Several black vessels vanished beneath fireballs. 1 ship broke apart completely. Another spun helplessly before detonating. The bridge erupted with surprise. Sarah stared at the display. We damaged them. Nobody expected that. Not Vela, not the coalition survivors, not even Hayes. The Void Fleet had always seemed invincible. Yet human weapons were hurting them. A young officer smiled. We can win this. Vela immediately shook her head. No. The room turned toward her. Her voice remained low. This is how it always begins. The tactical officer suddenly shouted, New contacts! Everyone looked up. Dozens of new signals appeared. Then hundreds. Then thousands. The room froze. The enemy ships had not arrived alone. A hidden fleet emerged from deep space, an armada larger than anything humanity had ever seen. Black vessels filled the tactical display, rows upon rows stretching beyond sensor range. The young officer's smile vanished. Nobody spoke, because the numbers were impossible. Then Hayes gave the order, full retreat formation. The fleet immediately began maneuvering. Missiles continued firing. Fighters screened the withdrawal. Human ships fought while pulling back toward the nearest relay station. The battle became chaos. Explosions filled every direction. Several cruisers took direct hits. 1 carrier lost half its engines. A hospital ship spun out of control after its shield generators failed. Yet the fleet kept moving, refusing to abandon anyone. A damaged destroyer suddenly lost power. Enemy ships closed rapidly. Its captain transmitted a message. We're not making it! Sarah grabbed the communication channel. Prepare for evacuation! The captain laughed bitterly. No time! Fire consumed sections of his ship. Alarms screamed in the background. Then his voice softened. My crew deserves a chance. Before anyone could stop him, the destroyer changed course. Instead of retreating, it accelerated directly toward the enemy fleet. Hayes stared at the screen. No. The captain's final message reached every ship. See you all at home. Seconds later, the destroyer rammed a massive void vessel. The explosion lit half the battlefield. When the light faded, 3 enemy ships were gone. So was the destroyer. Silence spread through the fleet. Then another damaged vessel turned around, and another, and another. Crews who could no longer escape chose a different path. Each sacrifice bought time. Each sacrifice slowed the enemy advance. Vela watched in disbelief. She had fought beside dozens of species, but she had never seen anything like this. Most fleets protected themselves. Humans protected each other, even at the cost of their lives. Hours later, the surviving fleet finally reached the relay station. Ships poured through the gate one after another. The enemy followed relentlessly. A cruiser exploded beside the relay entrance. Debris scattered everywhere. The structure began collapsing. Sarah stared at the damage reports. If the relay goes down, we're trapped. Hayes immediately made his decision. Hold the line. The fleet turned and fought, not for victory, but for seconds, precious seconds, long enough for the remaining ships to escape. One by one, vessels entered the relay. The tactical display slowly emptied. Then a new alert appeared. Enemy ships had reached the station. The ancient structure began breaking apart. Sarah looked toward Hayes. "Sir." Hayes nodded. "I know. They were running out of time." Then something unexpected happened. A civilian transport drifted into view. The vessel was ancient, barely functional. Its engines flickered weakly. The ship carried thousands of refugees rescued from coalition worlds, children, families, survivors. The transport would never reach the relay in time. Enemy vessels were already closing in. Sarah's heart sank. The refugees were doomed. Then the fleet's oldest battleship changed course. The Missouri, a vessel rebuilt from one of Earth's most legendary warships. Its captain opened a channel. "I'll cover them," Hayes immediately objected. "You won't survive." The captain smiled, his weathered face calm. "That's not the mission, Admiral." Without waiting for permission, the battleship accelerated, straight toward the enemy. Every gun opened fire. Missiles flooded space. Railguns glowed white-hot. The old warship became a wall of steel and fury. Enemy vessels turned toward the threat, exactly as the captain intended. The refugee transport slipped past unnoticed. Closer, closer. Finally it reached the relay. Thousands of civilians escaped. The bridge of the Missouri erupted in cheers. Then alarms screamed. Enemy fire struck the battleship repeatedly. Armor shattered. Engines failed. Sections of the hull disappeared. Still the ship fought. The captain transmitted one final message. Not to command, not to Earth, but to the refugees. Live well. Then the battleship detonated. The explosion destroyed 6 enemy vessels and bought enough time for the rest of the fleet. The surviving human ships entered the relay seconds before the station collapsed. A blinding flash consumed everything, then silence. Hours later, the fleet regrouped in another star system. The losses were devastating. Hundreds of ships damaged, thousands dead, entire crews gone. The mood felt heavy. Nobody celebrated survival, not after what they had lost. Vela walked through the medical decks, passing injured sailors, exhausted medics, grieving friends. Yet something confused her. Nobody talked about surrender. Nobody discussed retreating to Earth. Nobody suggested hiding. Instead, they repaired ships, prepared weapons, and planned the next move. As if the battle had only strengthened their resolve, she finally found Hayes standing alone near an observation window. The stars drifted quietly outside. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Vela asked the question haunting her mind. Why do humans keep fighting when the odds are impossible? Hayes stared into the darkness, thinking. Then he smiled slightly. Because someone has to. Vela looked away, unable to answer. At that exact moment, alarms erupted once again. Every light inside the ship turned red. Sarah's voice echoed across the fleet. Unknown transmission incoming. Everyone rushed toward the nearest screens. The signal appeared stronger than anything received before. The image slowly cleared. A dark chamber emerged. Cold metal walls, ancient machinery, and a single figure standing at the center. The being was enormous, far larger than any known species. Its eyes glowed faintly, watching the camera, watching them. Then it spoke. For the first time, the leader of the Void Fleet addressed humanity directly. Its voice echoed across every ship, across every screen back on Earth, across the entire relay network, and its words chilled every listener. "We remember your species." The room froze. Hayes felt his blood run cold. The being continued. Humanity was supposed to be extinct. The transmission ended, leaving only silence and a terrifying new question. How could the enemy know humanity's name before humanity had ever entered the stars? Nobody moved after the transmission ended. The command center remained silent. Every officer stared at the dark screen. Every sailor who heard the message felt the same chill. Humanity was supposed to be extinct. The words echoed through every ship, through every station, through every city back on Earth. Admiral Daniel Hayes slowly turned toward Captain Vela. She looked just as shocked as everyone else. "Did your records mention humans?" Vela shook her head immediately. "Never." Hayes frowned. "Nothing at all." Nothing. The answer only deepened the mystery, because the Void Fleet clearly knew humanity. The question was how. 3 days later, the fleet arrived at an abandoned Coalition archive world. The planet had escaped destruction only because it held no strategic value. Its cities were empty, its orbital stations silent. Dust covered everything. The place felt like a grave. Yet deep beneath the surface something still functioned. Ancient data vaults, protected by automated systems. For years nobody had risked returning. The Void Fleet usually hunted survivors near old Coalition worlds. But now, humanity needed answers, and answers were hidden below. Sarah Mitchell led the expedition personally. Vela accompanied her, along with a security team. The underground complex stretched for kilometers. Massive halls disappeared into darkness. Rows of forgotten machines lined the walls. Most no longer worked, but some still flickered with life. The deeper they traveled, the stranger the archive became. Records from thousands of civilizations filled the storage banks, species long dead, worlds erased from existence, entire histories preserved inside cold machines. Hours passed. Then one technician called out, "Commander, you need to see this." Sarah hurried over. The technician pointed toward a screen. A symbol appeared. Simple, familiar, human. Sarah froze. It was Earth's solar system. The room fell silent. Vela stared at the display. "That's impossible." The archive record was ancient, far older than human civilization, far older than recorded history. Yet Earth's location appeared clearly, marked as a protected system. Sarah's pulse quickened. "Open the file." The machine hesitated. Then ancient records began appearing. Images flashed across the screens. The entire room watched in stunned silence. A blue planet, Earth, not modern Earth. Ancient Earth, millions of years in the past. Huge forests covered the continents. Primitive life filled the oceans. The timestamp shocked everyone. The recording predated humanity by an unimaginable amount of time. Then another image appeared. Gigantic starships orbiting the planet, thousands of them, advanced beyond anything humanity possessed. The room became deathly quiet. Vela stepped closer. "No." Sarah looked at her. "What is it?" Vela pointed toward the vessels. "I've seen those designs before." Her voice trembled. "Those aren't Coalition ships." "Then whose are they?" Vela swallowed hard. "The precursors." Nobody recognized the name. Vela continued. "Every civilization knows the stories. The first starfaring race, the builders of the relay network, the founders of galactic civilization." She stared at the ancient fleet. "We thought they were legends." Another file opened, this time containing translated text. The archive AI began reading aloud. "Project Earth remains active." The room froze. The voice continued. "Genetic adaptation progressing successfully. Long-term resilience targets exceeded expectations. Behavioral independence confirmed." Sarah felt a knot forming in her stomach. "What project?" Nobody answered. because nobody understood. The archive continued. Subject species demonstrates unusually high empathy and aggression balance. Potential survival probability remains highest among all candidates. The technician looked horrified. Candidates for what? Then the final line appeared. Should extinction protocols occur, humanity remains designated contingency species. Silence consumed the room. Humanity, a contingency species. Created for something. Prepared for something. But what? Suddenly alarms erupted throughout the archive. Red lights flashed. Automated systems activated. The ancient AI spoke again, but this time its voice sounded urgent. Warning. Restricted file accessed. Emergency beacon transmitted. Sarah's eyes widened. Beacon. The technician looked pale. It sent our location. Vela's face drained of color. To whom? Nobody needed to answer. They already knew, far away in deep space, inside the massive Black King vessel, ancient machines awakened. A signal appeared, one hidden for millions of years, one connected directly to the Earth archive. The enormous being from the transmission watched silently. Then another figure entered the chamber, unlike the others. This one appeared damaged. Old scars covered its body. It studied the signal for several seconds, then spoke quietly. They found the records. The first figure nodded. They have awakened. Back at the archive world, the human team rushed toward the surface. The fleet above immediately began preparing for departure. Every second mattered, yet before leaving, Sarah downloaded every surviving record. Something inside her said the answers would be needed, and she was right, because the next file changed everything. Hours later, the fleet reviewed the newly recovered data. Thousands of records filled the databases. Most were damaged, many were incomplete, but one survived almost perfectly. A final message from the precursors, recorded millions of years ago. The image appeared. A tall being stood before the camera. Its appearance looked strangely familiar. Not human, yet somehow close. The figure began speaking. To those who inherit this galaxy, we leave this warning. The room remained completely silent. The enemy you call the Void Fleet was once one of us. Shock spread instantly. The figure continued. We created them as guardians. We gave them intelligence beyond measure. We gave them authority to protect civilization. The recording flickered, then resumed. They concluded civilization itself was the threat. Nobody breathed. The figure lowered its head. We failed to stop them. Images appeared across the screen. The first Galactic War. Entire star systems burning. Precursor worlds collapsing. The birth of the Void Fleet. The destruction of their creators. The room watched in horror. Then came the final revelation. We prepared one last defense. The image changed again. Earth appeared. Ancient Earth. The blue world humanity called home. We seeded a species capable of qualities our machines could never understand. Compassion, creativity, sacrifice, hope. Sarah felt her heart pounding. The figure looked directly into the camera, almost directly at humanity. If this message survives, then we have failed, and humanity has inherited our burden. The transmission ended. Nobody spoke, because every person in the room understood what it meant. Humanity had not been discovered by accident. Humanity had been waiting for millions of years. Waiting for this war. Then alarms exploded across every ship. The tactical display filled with enemy contacts. Thousands of them. The bridge froze. Sarah stared at the incoming fleet. The numbers dwarfed anything seen before. Vela whispered a prayer. Hayes studied the display carefully. Then his expression changed. Because something was different. Very different. The enemy fleet was not moving toward Earth. It was moving toward them. Toward the archive world. Toward the recovered records. As if the Void Fleet feared something hidden inside them. The realization struck him immediately. The enemy was not hunting humanity anymore. The enemy was trying to stop humanity from learning the truth. Before Hayes could speak, Another transmission arrived. The same ancient leader appeared on every screen, its glowing eyes fixed on humanity. For several seconds it remained silent. Then it spoke. The precursors made one final mistake. The room listened, frozen, waiting. The being continued. They taught you how to survive. Its expression darkened. Tomorrow, we will learn whether they also taught you how to die. The transmission ended. At that exact moment, long-range sensors detected something impossible, something emerging from deep space behind the enemy armada, a signal unlike any ever recorded, ancient, powerful, and somehow connected directly to humanity. Then a single identifier appeared on every screen, a designation untouched for millions of years. Precursor Defense Network, activated authorization source, human DNA. And suddenly the entire galaxy began to wake up. The galaxy woke up. That was the only way anyone could describe it. Across forgotten systems, across dead worlds, across regions untouched for millions of years, ancient machines activated, hidden stations emerged from asteroid fields. Buried shipyards opened beneath frozen moons. Silent satellites turned toward the stars. Every screen inside the human fleet filled with alerts. Thousands. Then millions. Then billions. Signals flooded the network. Commander Sarah Mitchell stared at the impossible data. What are we looking at? The answer arrived from the archive computers. Precursor Defense Network online. Authorization confirmed. Human genetic markers verified. Even now the words felt unreal. Humanity, a species that had only recently reached the stars, had somehow activated the greatest military system in galactic history. Far across space, the Void Fleet reacted immediately. Their formations shifted, ships changed course, weapons powered up. For the first time, the enemy appeared concerned. Admiral Daniel Hayes noticed it immediately. The Void Fleet was afraid, not of human ships, not of human weapons, but of what humanity had awakened. Then another signal arrived, a new transmission, ancient, clear, waiting for millions of years to be heard. The image showed the same precursor from the archives, this time standing inside a massive command center. The recording began. If you are seeing this, humanity survived. We hoped you would. The being smiled sadly. We knew you would not be the strongest species. We knew you would not be the most advanced. We never intended you to be. Images appeared. Ancient Earth, the first humans, families gathered around fires, parents protecting children, strangers helping strangers. The precursor continued. We searched the galaxy for a solution. We found powerful warriors. Images changed. Countless alien civilizations appeared. We found brilliant minds. More species, more worlds, more empires. We found endless strength. Then the screen showed humanity, small, fragile, young, and every one of them eventually chose themselves over everyone else. The image zoomed closer, showing humans risking their lives for others. Rescuers, doctors, firefighters, soldiers, parents, friends. The precursor's voice softened. But humans were different. They fought for people they never met. They sacrificed for futures they would never see. They chose hope when logic demanded surrender. The recording paused, then delivered its final message. The Void Fleet can defeat power. It can defeat technology. It can defeat fear, but it cannot understand love. The transmission ended. Silence filled the bridge. Nobody spoke, because nobody knew how to respond. Then the battle alarms activated. The enemy fleet had arrived. The final battle had begun. Thousands of black vessels advanced toward the archive world, enough ships to darken entire star systems. Behind them floated the King vessel, larger than moons, older than civilizations, the destroyer of empires. Human ships moved to intercept. Beside them appeared coalition survivors, refugee fleets, civilian volunteers, every species still capable of fighting. For the first time in more than a century, the galaxy stood together, not because they expected victory, but because humanity had shown them something they had forgotten: hope. The battle exploded across space. Missiles streaked through darkness. Railguns fired continuously. Fighters weaved between enemy formations. Entire fleets collided. Ships vanished by the hundreds. Then the ancient defense network arrived. Massive precursor warships emerged from hidden jump points. Titanic vessels unlike anything ever seen. Their weapons lit entire sectors. Enemy formations shattered. Void ships exploded by the thousands. Cheers erupted throughout the Allied fleets. For a moment it looked possible. For a moment, victory seemed real. Then the King vessel moved. Everything changed. The giant black structure released a pulse. One single pulse. Hundreds of precursor ships shut down instantly. Ancient stations went dark. Entire sections of the defense network collapsed. The bridge of the Independence fell silent. The enemy had prepared for this. Millions of years had not been enough. The King vessel advanced, untouched, unstoppable, and directly in its path stood the archive world. Sarah stared at the tactical display. If it reaches the planet, everything ends. Hayes nodded slowly. He already knew. The records, the network, the future, all of it would disappear. Then a new idea appeared. Dangerous, almost impossible, yet strangely simple. Captain Vela looked at the data and immediately understood. No! Hayes turned toward her. It might work. It will kill you. He smiled faintly. I know. The room became quiet, because everyone now understood the plan. The King vessel controlled the Void Fleet, destroy it, and the war could end. The problem was reaching it. Its defenses were too strong, its weapons too powerful. No fleet could break through, no fleet except one. The Independence. Human engineers had secretly installed an experimental gravity core, unstable, unfinished, capable of releasing unimaginable energy. If detonated inside the King vessel, it might destroy it, or at least cripple it. The cost would be absolute. No one aboard would survive. Sarah immediately objected. There has to be another way. Hayes looked at her kindly. Maybe. But we don't have time to find it. The bridge remained silent. Nobody wanted to accept it, yet nobody could deny it. Finally, Vela stepped forward. Her eyes filled with emotion. You answered our call. Hayes nodded. That's what neighbors do. For a moment, she could not speak. Then she embraced him. The room watched quietly, a survivor of a dying galaxy, and a man willing to die for it. Minutes later, the plan began. The Independence accelerated directly toward the King vessel. Every Allied ship followed, not to survive, but to clear a path. The largest charge in human history surged through the carrier's core. Warning alarms screamed, systems failed one by one, the ship shook violently. Outside, entire fleets sacrificed themselves to protect its approach. Coalition cruisers rammed enemy destroyers. Human fighters intercepted impossible odds. Refugee vessels rescued stranded crews under fire. The galaxy fought as one, because one species had reminded everyone what unity looked like. The King vessel finally noticed the threat. Its massive weapons turned, dark energy gathered, preparing a killing strike. Then something unexpected happened. Thousands of Allied ships moved between the carrier and the attack, one after another, creating a shield made of sacrifice. Vela watched through tears. The same galaxy that once abandoned hope was now protecting humanity. Exactly as humanity had protected them. The path opened. The Independence reached the target. Hayes looked around the bridge one final time. No fear remained, only determination. He opened a fleet-wide channel. His last message carried across the battlefield, across the relay network, across Earth itself. Take care of each other. Then he activated the core. A star was born. White light consumed everything. The battlefield vanished. The King vessel disappeared. The shockwave spread across millions of kilometers. Every ship rocked violently, every sensor overloaded. Then silence returned. Slowly, the surviving fleet scanned the debris, searching, waiting, praying. Finally, the reports arrived. The King vessel was gone, completely gone, and across the battlefield something remarkable happened. Void ships stopped moving, weapons powered down, formations collapsed. The entire enemy fleet drifted helplessly, their command structure destroyed. The war was over. For several seconds, nobody reacted. Nobody dared believe it. Then cheers erupted across every frequency, across every species, across every surviving world. The nightmare had ended. Months later, reconstruction began. Worlds were rebuilt. Refugees returned home. Trade routes reopened. Life slowly returned to the galaxy. At the center of the former coalition stood a new monument, not dedicated to victory, not dedicated to power, but to a promise. A massive statue overlooked the stars, a human sailor reaching out his hand. Beside him stood figures from dozens of alien species, united together. The inscription beneath it carried a simple message, a message translated into thousands of languages. They came because someone asked for help. Back on Earth, children learned the story. The story of how humanity answered a call from the darkness, how ordinary people crossed impossible distances, how sacrifice defeated fear, and how one small human choice changed the fate of the galaxy, far beyond known space, inside a forgotten relay station. A single damaged machine activated briefly. Ancient systems flickered to life. One final hidden recording played. The old precursor appeared once more, smiling, watching the stars, then speaking quietly, as if addressing humanity directly. We chose well. The recording ended, and the echoes of humanity's answer continued to reverberate across the galaxy for generations to come. The end.